Hey, it's Matt with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Wednesday. It's March 28th. This will be our chart lesson for the day. And the only way I know to describe the price action today is just strange, almost weird. I'm sure we've probably had price action similar to this before, but I can't remember ever having this much volume and volatility and not and the market basically going nowhere. We had some nice moves. I mean, really, from here it's 25.94 to 26.34, maybe close to that. So, I mean, that's 30 points. So, I mean, that's a fairly large move. But really, in the end, we went nowhere. We Yesterday we closed around 26.15 or so, and today we closed around 26.08. So you got about 7 points there. That after all this movement, all this volume, and all this volatility, so it's really, generally when you have a range of days like that, you want to sell the highs and buy the lows, and we got some of that. But one thing I noticed that really worked all day today were failed second entries. And once you see a repeat pattern, I know if you've been following our videos for any period of time, you've heard me talk about failed second entries. And those are, I'm sorry, you've heard me talk about repeat patterns. And today that was the repeat pattern that we saw over and over were failed second entries, and they worked basically every single time. So if you notice that, there were a lot of trades that set up like that. So I'll show you some of them as we get to them. But that really seemed to be the trade of choice today, because otherwise it was really a strange day, and it's probably a hard day for most people. So, but anyway, let's go in here and I'll show you. Uh, Really, we were trading up right in here into the 7 o'clock hour. Notice you had a close outside, a couple legs up, and then we reversed. And notice you made a new high. So this is played out basically. If you get your reversal and you're moving down, you get a first entry. You pull down, you get a second entry, and so you get a failed second entry long right there. And it's the third touch of that trend line that confirms that trend line. So I like going short right there, just because there's probably going to be people that get trapped to the long side here. And this ends up close. It actually went higher and turns and goes out the other side. It ends up closing as a doji, but really you probably should have already been in when it went higher and then turned and went right out the other side. But if not, you could still go short right there, one stop below that. Yeah, that's a neutral bar. It's not quite a doji. It's really close, but it's still a very neutral bar. But because it's that trap, it doesn't really matter. You can see prices just dropped on down. So right out of the gate today, you see that early, and then you'll see that over and over today. Those failed second entry longs, they don't always look exactly like this one, but I'll show them to you, and you'll see them over and over today. And here's another one. We move down, and all of a sudden we push up. We get a first entry short. We push higher through the EMA. We push down. We get a second entry short. And so I marked this one green only because we were kind of bouncing off that upper trend line. If you drew that in there once you started making these highs here, then it's a little bit concerning to go long into that, but it still fits the criteria, so there's nothing wrong with going long there. But when you get that little jog back to the trend line and you confirm this trend line and you get a relatively small bullish bar there, that's the better place to enter. And you can see how it took off pretty quickly. And then look what happens at the top. We didn't quite get back to the highs, but you get a first entry, you move down, you get a second entry. So there's that failed second entry long, a big bearish bar. Generally, I'd want to see this below the EMA, but this is so bearish, and you got that overshoot, and there's probably a lot of people that got long right there off of that setup. And so that's going to be a great place to go short. So I like going short right there. And look at this move. If you catch that one trade with a runner, that's all you need for the day. I mean, that's a huge move down, basically 26.18 or 19 or so down to 26.04. So there's 10 or 12 points right there off one runner. But then look what happens. We here's your overnight lows down here. We bounced down here multiple times. And we come down through here and we bounce right away. And look what happens. You get that first entry short, and then that second entry short, it fails. And notice too, if you count off the high, you pull back first entry, pull back second entry. So you got a second entry long counting off the highs, and you got a failed second entry short off the lows. And we just came off the lows that we bounced multiple times. We made a higher low here. Go long right there. That's a pretty clear move. The only reason I made this green is because there is a little 2-bar matching high there, and we actually went lower, broke lower below that bar, but we couldn't get back above it there. So that was a little bit concerning for me, and also the fact that we're below the EMA. But if you saw the fact that we've had several of these failed second entries already, and they're all working, then go for that one, because look how it takes off again. It just rockets off. And then we actually pull back here again. And this, you could, on a bigger picture, there's like a first entry, and then you move up and there's a second entry here. And so you may like taking that one as well. And there's actually a shorter term trend in here too. And you get a close outside the new high, then you're working down and just kind of go sideways. But I like this one just because you don't get a real clear negative close outside till here, so there's a good chance you may push up again. And notice that there's a pullback, and that's your first entry above there. But the reason I like this one is because this is really all one move right here. Even though you got that little double jog and you've really got a failed second entry short there, on a little bit larger chart, that's going to be one move down and then a second one, and it's bouncing right off the EMA. And so it's similar to a failed second entry short. Plus, we just came off the lows, and at this point we'd still been coming from highs to lows and highs to lows, and so it was time for us to go test the highs. So I was really looking for another possible leg up, just like this one. I'd measure it this way first, and then I would measure it from down here as well. But we measure it from right there first. And you see where that measured leg puts you right back up here. And you can see we got basically a perfect measured leg there. If we continued higher, you would have wanted to measure it from here. Actually, went too far there. To here, and we missed that one by a tick or so. But anyway, this was not a great setup, but if you saw all that and realize that we're not back to the top yet, you may consider that one. You're better off to wait. And of course, now you got this one over here. There's a little trend line working right through there, and you get a close outside, move to a new low. So there's really two legs back to the EMA, back to a possible trend line, and that's a second entry long. Notice the new high, first entry, pull back. That's two measured legs down. So that's a nice setup. But then look what happens. That's basically considered a swing low because there's two swings right there. And so you start up first entry short, second entry short, it fails. And this went lower and then turns and goes out the upper side. Once again, you get that pattern. And you'll see it over and over all day today. And then we turn down right off the highs here. We actually got to close outside and move to a new high. This one was really tempting. It wasn't a considerable, it's not really a long way away from the EMA, but it is away from the EMA. But generally, you're almost always better off to wait on the lower high. You get that right here. But again, I wasn't crazy about that one because you got a little bit of support across here. And when it breaks lower and comes back here and gives you that failed second entry long, once again, notice the new high, first entry, then you get your second leg down and your second entry long, and it fails, a nice bearish bar. Go short right there. Now you're looking for it to probably go to the other side again. And sure enough, that's where it's headed. And you're working down here. There's actually a second entry short right here. I was a little bit afraid of this one simply because we had this overshoot here. We've overshot it a couple of times, but really that one should at least be green. I don't know why I didn't mark it green. And you could argue, I mean, it's right there at the borderline, but it's 2 legs back to the EMA, but it confirms that trend line too. So, and it's a fairly bearish bar. So, and you could even argue for that to be a little bit of a congestion right there and a little failed breakout. But we're probably headed to the other side. At least that's what we're hoping. So, but this overshoot concerns me a little bit because generally, a lot of times when you've overshot it a couple times in a row, then you're going to be concerned about it. But if you look over here, we really got an overshoot over here as well that you could argue for. So, and we got a little bit of a we basically have the same setup right there as we got right here. So uh, you could really argue for that to be almost red. So especially since we've seen it similar setups. Again, it's like it's kind of that repeat pattern. Of course, we work down. There's another second entry right here, but there's too much support right across there. You don't want to go short right there into all those lows that we've bounced a few times. And you see what happened. It would have bounced again. And notice, and now you got a clear break outside of this trend line, and there's your lower high. Look how we push right through, come back. Your failed second entry long is right here. But we're kind of going sideways there, so I liked it better to wait and let it drop lower and pull back. And again, that's almost your little failed second entry long pattern. And this would have been my target here, even though we went much lower than that and shot on through there. That would have been your first target. And so now you've got to close outside and 2 legs down. So you got to be real careful getting short in here. And there's really not a setup here. There was a failed second entry long here, but again, notice how you're going sideways. You've got a double bottom here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bars. Well, actually, you wouldn't have had that one, but you'd had your 4 bars with this one before it broke lower. So that's plenty of reason to stay out of it, especially with your break, move to a new low. And plus, this was the first real move below the overnight lows. So you figure this may fail. So if anything, you might be looking to go long right there. So notice what happens. You got your little double bottom. Then the first entry, you push up. Second entry, short. There's your failed second entry short, your reversal type pattern if you go long there. Another easy move. And then, I don't have my little trend line drawn here, but you got a little trend line here. And you close outside. You try to move to a new low on a retest, but everything's closing. This also closes back inside the support resistance area across there. And it's a second entry long counting off the high. And we tried to go low. We make a higher low there and a fairly bullish bar like going long right there. And at this point, you're hoping to go the other side again, but it doesn't really happen. We just kind of bounce around here. But notice you push on up, which was the one we just talked about, this one, yeah. And you push on up and you pull back first entry, pull back second entry. Even though you made a slightly higher high there, that's still a 2-legged pullback to the EMA. That's the first real close outside this trend channel, trend line. And so that's where you want to go long, hoping to catch that move up, a couple legs up to a new high, and hopefully we're going all the way to the other side maybe, but that doesn't turn out to happen. We turn down right here, and you got this. Just there's no you could probably argue to want to enter here. If this would have broke higher again, I wouldn't have had a problem entering here on this lower, a little bit of a lower high. It's still a lower high, but you really want to see it break higher, and you don't get that till here, and then you don't really get a real good setup here. So I think you're better off just to wait. And then finally you get your failed second entry long here. And you also get a second entry short with this. You actually have, I don't have it on here. You actually have this trend line working up. But notice you're moving up. You get a first entry and a little higher high and a second entry. But it's also a failed second entry long. It was actually a failed second entry when it went down right there, but you wouldn't want to go short below those two. Basically, uh, they're not dojis, but they're real neutral type bars. Look at the stem on each side, very small body. You got two matching lows right there. That's not a place you really want to go low on a first entry, but when it pushes up and turns down and gives you that second entry, I like going short right there. That's the first close outside of this trend line. We really don't get any confirmation of this channel, but you still got this one, and that's one leg down. And when we start lower again, you probably figure, hey, maybe we'll get a measured leg here. You see we came real close. We maybe got a tick or two further than that, and then it reverses again. And look what happens here again as well. There's a lower high here, but this is a huge bar. It actually went higher and turned and went out the other side, but it's right into that overnight low. So even though it worked, I'd skip that. But watch what happens. You get this reversal again. You're moving up. You get a first entry. You push on through. You get a second entry, and that gives you your third touch of that trend line and confirms it. I like going long right there. Again, a nice move. Then we just kind of went sideways here. You definitely don't want to be entering in this. And then we go sideways. And so you got to be, the way you want to play this, if you get a short off the low or a long off the lows or short off the highs, you want to try to take it when you're just working sideways. It wasn't real clear here. This one was tempting, but it wasn't real clear here. We did have a lot of matching lows, but look how we're making lower highs. That's not a good sign. So you probably want to skip that one. Just sit tight and don't do anything. Even though if you'd have played the failed break lower, you still would have been all right. But then it pushes up and you get a failed break higher and that big bearish bar. So I like that one. Then you make a lower high here with a real small bar. It's kind of neutral, but it's more, it closes closer to the low end than it does the high. So I like that one just because it gives you a chance to get out before you get here again. And so again, it works. And then you get a break out the lower side. I like that one. Another small bar. This was really the smallest. I mean, right in here, there were some small bars. So it gave you an opportunity to get in without these huge bars we were getting earlier. It's like the market just doesn't know what to do here. It doesn't know where it's going, what's happening. It's like everybody's confused, and that's the way it feels. And that's the way it looks on paper too. So, but that turns out to be a nice move right there. And then, of course, you come back to the trend line right here, and you get another small bullish bar right off the trend line. And notice there's your first two swings, and that gives you a confirmation. And it seems to be fitting on this side as well. So I like going long there. And that turns out to be a nice move. And then here's your reversal pattern again. Pull back first entry, pull back second entry. Normally I'd want to see that go through the EMA, but today this has been working all day. Just take it. There it goes. And we get a little bounce here again. That's your first close outside of this one, but it comes back and tests the overnight highs there. And there's a lower high right here, but it looks like you have a close outside here and a new high, but it's just not very convincing. So I felt like you needed to wait on the reversal here, and you get that. You actually break higher here, but again, that it's not a very good bar, but you could have taken it. But I think you're better off to wait. You're right into all those lows, and so when it pulls back again and fails, then I like going short. So if it wasn't for all those lows right there, I would have probably marked that one anyway, because that is your failed second entry long, and that's been working all day long. And you could even argue to enter here since it's off those highs. And I can't remember if it broke lower or higher first on this one, so I'm not real sure. But either way, you could just go short one stop on sell stop one tick below that bar right there. So you could argue for that one. There'd been so many trades that by that time that when I was watching it in real time, it just didn't look that great. But after the fact, I probably should have marked it. So, and then of course, like I said, there's your true Well, here's your true failed second entry long, but it's just so weak, and then the bar doesn't. It's not a very big bar that closes weak. But when it tries to go higher again, that's when because of all that support. Notice it pushes a little. It pushes a little bit lower there, pulls back, and makes that double top. And so hopefully we're headed to the other side, and that's exactly where it goes. And you'd want to measure this move here, but just to kind of give you a general idea of what to shoot for on your target. But your overnight low where we've been bounces down here, and of course that's where it went. So, but that would have given you an idea for a target at a minimum. And then notice what happens. You get this reversal pattern again right here. This one worked. It's not my favorite setup again, simply because we pushed up and then we push up again, but we get outside the trend line right away. We never really confirmed that trend line with the third touch, so that concerned me a little bit, especially with it closing below the EMA and really being the first clear convincing close outside. We may push back down again, so I was a little leery of that one, but it's still that same pattern, that repeat pattern, and it would have worked. So you can't argue with those repeat patterns when they're working. So so I marked it green even though I don't like it, and it did work. It got, I think, 1.5 or 2 points, so it doesn't look like it there, but that's a huge bar too. And that was another reason I really didn't like that one. But that pattern's worked all day, and then we push up. Now we got the close outside, we push up, and look what happens. Pull back first entry, pull back second entry, it fails and gives you this big bearish bar. Like I said, you can't argue with the pattern. It's worked all day. Here it is again. Pull, you move up, first entry short, move up, second entry short, it fails. There you go again. Again, this is a lot of sideways stuff here. So I'm not crazy about making it blue, but there's that repeat pattern. If you saw that and you notice it's working all day, take it, because it's worked every time. It's been very consistent. And then here you don't get a chance to enter that one. It just bounces. And then here it just turns right back down and goes down again. I mean, this market was just like so lost. Nobody knew what to expect, I guess. So there's just no real rhyme or reason to what's going on here. It's just like people are buying and selling, buying and selling. But notice here's your pattern again. You made a new low, first entry, second entry. There's your failed second entry long, short, go long right there. And another thing I liked about this one is you have all those matching lows across there. So you tested that multiple times. So that gives you even some more reasons to like that one. Goes up. Then you get a first entry, second entry, and there it is again, and it fails again. But I didn't mark that one. That bar is just so bullish, but it's still a failed second entry. But it's not a perfect one because it never breaks lower first. You would have liked to see it go higher and then go lower and then go higher again. And notice none of these bars broke lower until here. And so you don't really get that great a setup. But again, if you'd have treated that like a failed second entry, which is close, and you could, there's you another one, and off it goes. And so, I mean, you could just see that all across there all day. It worked every time you saw it, it worked. And that's what generally happens with a repeat pattern. So today was like repeat pattern. But it was a really strange day, and I mean, a lot of trades there, but most of them were I really only liked them based off that reversal pattern or that failed second. They weren't, a lot of times they weren't even really true reversal patterns, but they were failed second entries. And they worked just about they did work just every time. So you couldn't argue with them. Just you get to late in the day, if you see one, you just take it. So anyway, really odd day, felt really odd to me as well, but you only had to catch one of these early ones, and a couple of these earlier ones were much clearer than some of the later ones. So if this is one of those kind of days where hopefully you get done early And it seems like I got an email from somebody. I can't remember if he was talking about today or yesterday, but he said he took 2 early trades and he got his target and he quit. And he said he was glad that he did, because if he'd have kept trading, he probably had losers. And so if you had trouble trading this today or reading it, don't worry about it, because this is not typical. This is a very odd market right now, very much harder than usual to read and understand. So, and the best thing to do might be just to get on the sim on days like this, and especially if you're new to being live, don't risk it. Just get on the sim and practice trade it and see how you read it and get comfortable with it, because this is not a normal market. It's very unnormal, especially for the ES. So I can't remember having a day like this where you had this much volatility and this much movement for a basic range day, where we end up, only a few points difference between where we closed yesterday and where we closed today. It just really feels strange. That's my best word I can come up with for it. So anyway, this is almost 30 minutes, so I'm gonna wrap it up. I did want to say, somebody had posted that Monday was not a holiday, so I don't know. I'm looking at this here, and it's really kind of confusing. So maybe Monday's not a holiday. I need to probably go to the CME and just look. But here's the trade calendar I was looking at, and it shows closed Friday. Looks like it does open on Sunday, but Monday it just has this closed over here. So that's what I was going on. So I'm still not sure, but somebody said the market's open on Monday, but we probably just need to go to the CME website and verify it straight through them, because this could be wrong. And maybe I'm just misunderstanding this. Maybe this just means these two markets, E-mini, FTSE, China 50. So maybe it's just those two markets. But it's just odd they don't have any open times or anything in here. Well, maybe that's because it's opening. It really opens on Sunday at 5 o'clock. So maybe that's what it is. Maybe I'm just not reading this right. Maybe I just misunderstood it. So this may be correct, and I may be just reading it wrong. But I just saw that closed and nothing else in there, and just assumed that all the equity products are closed. So yeah, we probably are trading Monday. Looking at maybe I just misunderstood the way this is done here. But I'm gonna go to the CME just to verify it. But anyway, there's no trading Friday. We'll do our regular stuff tomorrow, and then there won't be anything Friday. So, and I'm assuming now that we probably will trade, and it'll be a regular day Monday. So anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow and wrap up our week, but I'm done for today. This is Mac with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.